You rarely lose your life in one dramatic moment. You lose it slowly, in the small decisions where you choose distraction over discipline, comfort over courage, and noise over clarity. Every day, without noticing, you drift a little further from the person you were meant to become. And deep down you feel it, that quiet restlessness, that pull towards something bigger, that whisper telling you that you were made for more than the life you've been settling for. This audiobook is your turning point, not because it gives you motivation for a day, but because it gives you a blueprint for a lifetime. When you decide to focus on yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of responsibility, you take back ownership of your future. You stop chasing validation. You stop bending yourself to fit the expectations of people who don't live your life. You stop waiting for permission. You start building the strongest, most capable version of you. In this audiobook, we will rebuild your foundation from the inside out. You'll learn how to strengthen your mindset, protect your focus, discipline your habits, raise your standards, and transform pain into power. You'll learn how to stand alone, without feeling alone, how to reinvent the self-image that has been holding you back, and how to become someone who follows through every time. Most importantly, you'll learn how to win, not once, but continuously, because self-mastery isn't a finish line. It's a way of living, a way of showing up, a way of choosing yourself long enough, consistently enough, until your life finally reflects your potential. This is your moment to reclaim your direction, your energy, and your future. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Stop living small. Step into who you're meant to be. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They fail because they shrink themselves to fit the expectations around them. They dim their own light to avoid being judged. They choose the comfort of the familiar over the discomfort of growth. They live small because living small feels safer. But safety is an illusion, and the price you pay for playing it safe is the life you could have lived, the life you were built for. There comes a moment in every person's life when they feel a quiet pull, a nudge, a whisper that says, "You're capable of more." At first you ignore it. You tell yourself that you'll change later, when things calm down, when you feel ready, when circumstances finally align. But later never comes, and the truth is, you don't need circumstances to change. You need you to change. Great lives don't begin with perfect timing. They begin with a decision. The decision to stop negotiating with your potential and step into the version of yourself you've been avoiding. Living small is a habit. It's built from years of staying quiet when you should have spoken up, saying yes when you wanted to say no, choosing easy paths instead of the right ones, and settling for situations that don't challenge or expand you. And like any habit, it becomes comfortable, even addictive. You convince yourself that playing small is humility, when really it's fear. You convince yourself that you're being patient, when really you're procrastinating on your own greatness. You convince yourself that you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow becomes a repeat of today. To step into who you're meant to be, you must confront the beliefs that have held you back. Somewhere along the way, you were taught to minimize yourself, to not aim too high, not want too much, not believe too boldly. You were conditioned to think that desire is arrogance and ambition is risky, but ambition is not the enemy. Fear disguised as being realistic is the enemy. The world doesn't benefit from another person hiding their gifts. Your family doesn't benefit. Your future doesn't benefit. And most importantly, you don't benefit. Often it's not failure you fear, but visibility. Because the moment you decide to rise, someone will judge you. Someone will misunderstand you. Someone will question you. But here's the truth. Being judged for trying is still better than being invisible for doing nothing. The world will always have opinions, but none of those opinions will pay your bills, build your character, or shape your future. You must choose between being liked for who you are not and being respected for who you're becoming. Stepping into your full self isn't about becoming someone new. It's about removing everything that isn't you. The doubts, the excuses, the stories you've told yourself for years. It's about stripping away the layers of fear and revealing the person who has been waiting underneath, stronger, bolder, wiser, and more capable than you ever allowed yourself to believe. You don't transform your life by making one dramatic leap. You transform it by taking the first small step and repeating it. You say no to things that drain you. You say yes to challenges that stretch you. You set standards that reflect your worth. You surround yourself with environments that match your ambition. You stop postponing the life you want and start building it, brick by brick, day by day. Your potential is not a myth. It is not a fantasy. It is a responsibility. And every day you choose comfort over courage, you abandon a piece of that responsibility. But the moment you choose courage, genuine, uncomfortable, soul-shaking courage, you open the door to your highest self. This chapter is not asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to stop hiding, to stop shrinking, to stop apologizing for wanting more. It's asking you to step forward, even if your voice shakes and your knees tremble. Every great breakthrough in history began with someone who simply refused to live smaller than their calling. Your life expands the moment you do, and today, you begin that expansion. Stop living small. Step boldly into who you're meant to be. The world is waiting for the real you. Chapter 2. Choose the path of growth over the path of comfort. Every day, you stand at a crossroads between two paths, the path of comfort and the path of growth. One keeps you where you are, the other transforms you. One asks nothing from you, the other demands your energy, your patience, your discipline, and your courage. And the truth is, your entire life is shaped by which of these two paths you choose, not once, but repeatedly, in the small decisions no one sees. The path of comfort is seductive because it feels safe. It whispers, "Stay here. You don't need to push. You don't need to stretch. You don't need to face the unknown." It rewards you instantly with ease, but it punishes you slowly with regret. Comfort builds a life that looks peaceful on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. You wake up each day knowing you were meant for more, but you keep postponing the more, because the familiar feels easier than the unfamiliar. But comfort has a cost, and the cost is your potential. The path of growth, on the other hand, is rarely easy. It requires you to face your flaws, admit your weaknesses, and challenge your excuses. It demands that you show up even when you don't feel ready. It asks you to trade short-term pleasure for long-term strength. Growth is rarely comfortable, but it is always worth it, because it builds a life you can be proud of. When you choose growth, you choose the path that expands you. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. It pushes you to develop new skills, deepen your discipline, and raise your standard of living. Growth asks you to risk failure, but it also rewards you with resilience. It asks you to leave behind what feels safe, but it rewards you with what feels meaningful. The hardest part of choosing the path of growth is letting go of the version of yourself that prefers comfort. You've built routines, habits, and beliefs around ease. You've convinced yourself that things should feel natural, smooth, and effortless to be right. But nothing great in life is effortless. Nothing meaningful comes without intentional struggle. If you're always craving the easiest option, you'll always live the smallest life. Growth requires discomfort, intentional discomfort. The discomfort of waking up early, the discomfort of saying no to distractions, the discomfort of setting boundaries, the discomfort of showing up when you don't feel like it. The discomfort of being a beginner again. The discomfort of being misunderstood by people who don't share your vision. But every moment of discomfort plants a seed of transformation. Choosing growth means you stop asking, what feels good right now, and start asking, what makes me stronger long term. It means you start valuing the work more than the reward, the discipline more than the dopamine, the purpose more than the pleasure. And when you shift your priorities this way, your entire life begins to reshape itself. The path of growth is also the path of responsibility. You start owning your choices instead of blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for luck and start building skill. You stop hoping for motivation and start relying on discipline. You stop letting others influence who you become and start choosing your direction with intention. Growth doesn't demand perfection, it demands progression. It doesn't matter how slow you move. What matters is that you keep moving. Because the path of comfort is not stagnant, it pulls you backward. Comfort is not neutral, it slowly erodes your ambition. But growth pushes you forward, even if only by an inch. The real reason most people don't choose growth is because growth exposes them. When you aim higher, your weaknesses appear. When you try harder, your flaws become visible. When you challenge yourself, your insecurities surface. But this exposure is not something to fear, it is something to embrace. You cannot improve what you are unwilling to acknowledge. The path of comfort protects your ego, but the path of growth builds your character. And character is what carries you through life's biggest challenges, transitions, and opportunities. Comfort may give you a temporary sense of peace, but growth gives you a permanent sense of pride. As you move forward, remind yourself of this truth. Every great life is built on choices that were uncomfortable in the moment, but powerful in their effect. Your future depends on the decisions you make today. Will you choose what is easy or what is meaningful? What gives you relief or what gives you strength? What keeps you the same or what makes you better? When you consistently choose the path of growth, you become the kind of person who refuses to settle. You become someone who keeps evolving, keeps improving, keeps rising. You become someone unstoppable. Your life is waiting. Choose the path that leads somewhere. Choose the path that shapes you. Choose the path that transforms you, one uncomfortable step at a time. Chapter 3. Focus is your freedom. Guard it without apology. Your life is built on the things you give your attention to. What you focus on multiplies. What you ignore fades. Yet most people never realize the true cost of a distracted life. They go through each day reacting instead of directing, chasing instead of choosing, and scattering their energy across things that contribute nothing to the future they want. They wonder why they feel overwhelmed, behind, or unfulfilled, never realizing that the root of the problem is simple. Their focus is scattered, and a scattered mind cannot build a powerful life. Focus is the foundation of every transformation. It gives you clarity. It gives you direction. It gives you the ability to make real progress instead of spinning your wheels. When your focus is sharp, your decisions become easier, your actions become stronger, and your growth becomes faster. But when your focus is weak, even the simplest goals feel heavy, far, and frustrating. That's why your ability to protect and direct your attention is not just a productive habit. It is the key to freedom. Distraction is not just a modern annoyance, it is a trap. Every unnecessary notification, every pointless argument, every toxic person, every comparison, every hour lost scrolling, all of it drains your energy in ways you don't see. It steals the mental space you need for clarity, creativity, and progress. Distraction convinces you that you're busy when you're actually stuck. It makes you feel productive while secretly robbing you of the time you need to build a meaningful life. But here's the truth. No one can protect your focus for you. Not technology, not society, not your environment, not the people around you. Focus is something you must defend fiercely. You must guard it without guilt, without apology, and without hesitation, because the life you want depends on it. When you choose to focus, you choose to narrow your world to the things that matter. You stop giving energy to distractions that feed your anxiety. You stop entertaining people who drain your ambition. You stop engaging in activities that don't align with your goals. You begin to value your attention as something sacred, something powerful, because it is one of the biggest breakthroughs in life. Happens the moment you realize that you don't need more time, you need more focus. With sharp focus, 1 hour can accomplish what unfocused people do in a day. With sharp focus, your goals become achievable, not impossible. With sharp focus, your progress accelerates, because your energy stops leaking into things that weaken you. Guarding your focus also requires learning to say no, not just to others, but to your old habits. No to distractions disguised as entertainment. No to commitments that don't serve your future. No to conversations that pull you away from your priorities. No to environments that limit your growth. No to the old version of you who lived for instant gratification instead of long-term impact. To protect your focus, you must build boundaries. Boundaries with people, boundaries with technology, boundaries with your own impulses. You must create a space, mentally and physically, where your goals come first. A space where discipline is normal, not rare. A space where your future gets the respect it deserves. Focus also demands clarity. You can't protect what you haven't defined. What do you want to accomplish? Who do you want to become? What habits do you need? What weaknesses must you fix? What distractions must you eliminate? Once you answer these questions, your focus becomes self-enforcing. The clearer your destination, the easier it is to ignore the noise. And remember this, staying focused is not about intensity, it's about consistency. Anyone can focus for an hour. Masters focus for years. Anyone can be motivated for a day. Masters stay committed, even when motivation fades. Focus is not a feeling, it is a discipline, a choice, a habit that must be practiced daily. If you want freedom, freedom from stress, freedom from overwhelm, freedom from regret, you must build the skill of focus. Because the more distracted you are, the more controlled you become by everything around you. But the more focused you are, the more you control your direction, your energy, and your destiny. Focus is not a luxury. It's not optional. It's not something you try when you feel like it. Focus is the gateway to the life you want. Guard it relentlessly. Protect it unapologetically. Treat it like the currency of your future, because that's exactly what it is. Chapter 4. Train your mind to work for you, not against you. Your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever possess, yet it can also be the most destructive. It can lift you, or it can limit you. It can push you forward, or it can pull you down. Most people never realize that their mind is quietly shaping their life, not through dramatic moments, but through the silent, repetitive thoughts they allow to live in their head. And until you learn to train your mind, you will always feel like you're working against yourself. Your mind is constantly talking to you. It comments on what you can and cannot do. It reminds you of your past. It warns you of failure. It questions your capability. It creates stories, some true, most untrue. And the harsh reality is this: if you don't take control of that voice, it will control you. If you don't challenge your thoughts, they will define you. If you don't strengthen your mindset, your weaknesses will dominate your decisions. A weak mind looks for problems. A strong mind looks for possibilities. A weak mind doubts. A strong mind decides. A weak mind fears failure. A strong mind sees failure as feedback. The difference between the weak and the strong is not talent, it is training. To train your mind to work for you, the first step is awareness. You must learn to catch the thoughts that sabotage you. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough. I'll do it later. This is too hard. What if I fail? These thoughts don't come from truth. They come from fear. And fear thrives when it goes unchallenged. The moment you expose these thoughts, you weaken them. When you question them, you shrink them. When you replace them, you rewrite your identity. Next comes discipline. Mental discipline means teaching your mind to stay where you want it to stay. Most people let their thoughts wander into worry, comparison and negativity. They allow their mind to replay past mistakes and anticipate future problems. But a disciplined mind is trained to stay present, stay purposeful, and stay aligned with the future you're building. This discipline doesn't happen automatically. It's a skill developed through intention, repetition and time. You must also feed your mind selectively. What you consume becomes what you think. The conversations you entertain, the content you watch, the people you follow, the environments you expose yourself to, they all shape the landscape of your mind. A mind fed with noise becomes noisy. A mind fed with negativity becomes negative. A mind fed with purpose becomes powerful. You cannot expect to grow mentally while surrounding yourself with things that weaken you. Another key to training your mind is rewiring your relationship with discomfort. Your mind naturally wants comfort. It wants ease, routine and familiarity. But growth requires the opposite. Growth demands challenge. It demands effort. It demands that you step into situations your mind initially resists. When you lean into discomfort instead of running from it, you teach your mind to stop seeing challenge as danger and start seeing it as opportunity. You must also build inner resilience, the ability to remain grounded when life becomes chaotic. Life will challenge you, but your mind does not have to break with every challenge. Resilience gives you the ability to recover quickly, to stay centered, to move forward even when your emotions pull you backward. A resilient mind bends but doesn't collapse. It feels fear but still acts. It experiences doubt but still decides. One of the most powerful forms of mental training is self-command, the ability to tell yourself what to do and follow through. Imagine how different your life would be if your mind obeyed your decisions instead of your impulses. Imagine what you could accomplish if you did the work whether you felt like it or not. This is the difference between people who dream and people who execute. Self-command turns intention into action and action into achievement. But above all, training your mind means building a new identity. You must stop telling yourself stories that limit you. Stop identifying with weakness. Stop labeling yourself with past mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not your old patterns. You are not your doubts. You are who you decide to become, and your mind must be shaped to support that decision, not fight it. A trained mind works in your favor. It encourages you instead of discouraging you. It reminds you of your goals instead of distracting you from them. It pushes you forward instead of pulling you into fear. It becomes your ally, your strength, your engine of progress. Your life will only rise as high as your mindset. So train it, strengthen it, discipline it, make it work for you, never against you. Chapter 5. Build consistency as if your life depends on it. If motivation is the spark, consistency is the fire that keeps your life moving forward long after the excitement fades. Anyone can be committed for a day. Anyone can be disciplined when they're inspired. But the people who rise, the people who transform, the people who build a life they're proud of, those are the ones who show up every day, especially on the days when they don't feel like it. Consistency is the difference between wishing and winning, between hoping and achieving, between talking about a better life and actually living one. Most people underestimate the power of small, repeated actions. They think change requires something dramatic, a massive breakthrough, a life-altering moment, a sudden wave of motivation. But breakthroughs don't come from intensity, they come from continuity. One workout doesn't change your health, but 100 do. 1 hour of learning doesn't change your mind, but 1,000 hours do. One disciplined choice won't transform your life, but discipline practiced daily will. Consistency is not glamorous. It's not loud. It doesn't get applause. It looks boring, repetitive, and ordinary from the outside. But what people don't see is the compounding effect happening beneath the surface. Every day you show up, every repetition, every page, every step, you are stacking wins that slowly, steadily, and powerfully reshape who you are. The true challenge is not doing the work. It's staying committed long enough to see the results. Most people quit, not because they can't succeed, but because they don't stay consistent long enough for success to reveal itself. They expect progress to be fast, linear, and obvious. When it isn't, they assume something is wrong with them. But nothing is wrong. This is simply how growth works. Progress is invisible before it becomes undeniable. The early stages always feel slow, silent, and unrewarding. Consistency means you keep going anyway. To build consistency, you must first remove the belief that you need motivation to take action. Motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls with mood, energy, emotion, and environment. Motivation might start the journey, but it cannot sustain it. Discipline sustains it. Systems sustain it. Identity sustains it. You must build a life where doing the work becomes automatic, not optional. Start small. You don't build consistency by trying to change everything at once. You build it by choosing one thing, one habit, one routine, and committing to it daily. When you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you strengthen your self-respect. You prove to yourself that you can be trusted. You build momentum, and momentum, once created, is one of the strongest forces in the world. Consistency also requires boundaries. You must protect your routines from the influence of convenience, distraction, and excuses. You must learn to say no to things that pull you off track. You must separate your identity from the old version of you who acted only when it felt good. You must become someone who shows up regardless of mood, weather, temptation, or circumstance. Most importantly, consistency requires patience. You can't plant seeds today and expect a harvest tomorrow. Life doesn't reward speed, it rewards persistence. The results you want, the confidence, the strength, the skill, the success, are on the other side of days, weeks, and months of showing up. And the truth is, you're not just building habits, you're building the type of person who doesn't quit. There will be days when you feel tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed. That's normal. Progress tests you, growth stretches you. Consistency will challenge every weakness you have, but that is exactly how it strengthens you. When you push through resistance, you grow. When you follow through, when it's hard, you evolve. When you choose discipline over comfort, you separate yourself from who you used to be. And here is the secret. The moment consistency becomes part of your identity, life becomes easier. Goals feel achievable, challenges feel manageable, discipline feels natural. You no longer rely on willpower, you rely on who you have become. Build consistency as if your life depends on it, because it does. Your future depends on it. Your confidence depends on it. Your success depends on it. Every great life is built on a foundation of small actions repeated over and over, until they become unstoppable momentum. Consistency is not just a habit, it is your superpower. Chapter 6. Move quietly. Power grows in silence. There is a stage in every person's journey where silence becomes more powerful than noise. You stop feeling the need to announce your plans. You stop craving praise for your efforts. You stop explaining your dreams to people who are not meant to understand them. You begin to realize that the loudest work is often the weakest, and the strongest progress happens away from attention, applause, and approval. This is the moment you start moving quietly, and your life begins to change. Most people waste energy trying to look successful instead of becoming successful. They want to be seen working instead of doing the work. They post their goals, announce their intentions, and share their progress, hoping it will make them feel closer to the person they want to be. But talking about the work rarely creates results. Silence does. Focus does. Execution does. When you remove the need to constantly update the world, you gain the ability to actually build something the world will notice on its own. Moving quietly doesn't mean hiding your ambition, it means protecting it. It means recognizing that your dreams are fragile in their early stages. They need time, discipline, and nurturing before they can withstand outside opinions. Because the moment you share your plans, people will judge them. Some will criticize. Some will doubt. Some will project their insecurities onto you. And if your foundation is not yet strong, those voices can influence you more than you realize. Silence shields your vision until it's powerful enough to stand on its own. There is also a psychological advantage to working quietly. When you publicly announce your goals, your brain rewards you with a false sense of accomplishment. You feel as if you've already made progress just by talking about it. That little burst of validation often steals the energy you need to take real action. Silence keeps you hungry. Silence keeps you grounded. Silence reminds you that nothing is real until it's done. Moving quietly also forces you to rely on discipline rather than attention. When no one is watching, your choices become honest. You can't pretend. You can't perform. You can't hide behind words. You either show up or you don't. And that honesty builds something that applause never could: character. It creates a version of you who works from integrity, not ego, from commitment, not convenience, from purpose, not pressure. But don't mistake silence for isolation. You don't need to shut everyone out. You simply need to become selective. Share your plans with people who support your growth, not those who drain it. Keep your circle small, intentional, and aligned. Some people are meant to be part of your journey, but most are only meant to witness the results. Understanding this truth saves you from unnecessary noise, drama, and distraction. Moving quietly also changes how you respond to setbacks. When your work is private, your failures are private, too. You give yourself room to learn, adjust, experiment, and restart without the weight of public opinion. You no longer fear looking imperfect or inexperienced. You no longer feel pressure to perform for others. You are free to grow at your own pace, to make mistakes, to evolve without an audience. This freedom accelerates your progress more than constant external validation ever could. And then something powerful happens. Your results begin to speak for you. Doors open because of what you've done, not what you've said. Opportunities appear because people see your consistency, not your announcements. Respect forms because your actions have weight, not because your words were loud. Silence creates an element of mystery, strength, and confidence that noise can never replicate. The more quietly you move, the more control you gain over your energy. Noise dilutes your focus. Silence deepens it. Noise attracts unnecessary attention. Silence attracts purpose. Noise feeds the ego. Silence feeds the soul. When you master the art of quiet progress, you step into a different level of power, calm, steady, unshakable power. This chapter is not asking you to disappear from the world. It is asking you to withdraw from anything that weakens your direction, to stay committed to the work instead of the image, to value growth over recognition, to build your future in silence so you can live your success in confidence. Move quietly, build powerfully, let your results make the noise. Chapter 7. Confidence comes from evidence. Earn it every day. Confidence is not something you are born with. It's something you earn. It's something you build. It's something you create through the choices you make and the actions you take. Real confidence doesn't come from compliments, achievements, or external validation. It comes from evidence. It comes from proving to yourself, day after day, that you can rely on you. And until you learn how to create that evidence, you will always feel uncertain, insecure, and unsure of your own potential. Most people misunderstand confidence. They think it's a feeling you wait for, a mood that shows up when your life is going well. But confidence has nothing to do with feeling ready. Confidence is built when you do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel ready at all. It grows not from ease, but from challenge, not from comfort, but from effort, not from perfection, but from persistence. Confidence begins with small wins, tiny moments, where you follow through on your own promises. When you say you'll wake up early, and you actually do it. When you promise yourself you'll work out, and you follow through. When you commit to a goal, and take the next step, even if it's uncomfortable. Each of these choices becomes a brick in the foundation of your self-belief. You start trusting yourself. You start respecting yourself. You start understanding that your word means something. But the opposite is also true. Every time you break a promise to yourself, every time you procrastinate, quit early, or let your emotions override your commitments, you weaken your belief in yourself. You teach your mind that you're unreliable. And nothing destroys confidence faster than self-betrayal. Confidence is not built on motivation, it's built on integrity. The integrity to honor your own decisions, and do what you said you would do, long after the excitement fades. Confidence also requires courage, the courage to be imperfect. Too many people wait to feel confident before they take action, not realizing that confidence grows only through action. You don't become confident by preparing forever. You become confident by attempting, failing, adjusting, and trying again. Every experience, every mistake, every attempt becomes evidence that you can handle more than you thought. There is no shortcut around this process. You don't get confidence from reading about it. You don't get confidence from imagining it. You get confidence from doing the work. From stepping into situations that make you uncomfortable, from showing up when it's hard, from proving, repeatedly, that you will not abandon yourself when things get challenging. Another truth about confidence is that it grows quietly. Most of the work is done in private, when no one is watching, when no one knows what you're building. People often see your results, and assume you were always confident. They never see the days you doubted yourself. The nights you questioned everything, the moments you had to fight the urge to quit. They don't see the discipline behind the strength, but you see it, and that's what matters. Because confidence is internal, not external. It is not measured by how loudly you speak, but by how strongly you stand when the world is quiet. Confidence is also reinforced by the standards you hold for yourself. When you raise your standards, your habits, your environment, your circle, you naturally elevate your self-belief. You surround yourself with people who reflect the person you want to become, not the person you're trying to outgrow. You build routines that strengthen your discipline, instead of weakening it. You create an ecosystem where confidence has room to grow. But perhaps the most important part of confidence is this: it must be earned every day. You cannot rely on yesterday's wins. You cannot depend on old evidence to carry you through new challenges. Confidence is a living practice, a daily ritual. You wake up and earn it. You work for it. you reinforce it. And the more you do, the more automatic it becomes. Confidence is not about being better than others. It's about becoming better than your former self. It's about believing in your ability to face life with strength, clarity, and resilience. It's about knowing that you will follow through, that you will show up, and that you can trust yourself, no matter what happens. Earn your confidence, build it with evidence, and do it every single day. Chapter 8. Your environment is either building you or breaking you. Your environment is one of the strongest forces shaping your life, yet it's the thing most people overlook. You may believe you have total control over who you become, but the truth is simple. You are always being influenced by the people around you, the habits you repeat, the places you spend time in, the conversations you entertain, and the energy you allow into your life. Environment is not neutral. It is either lifting you higher or pulling you lower. It is either building your future or slowly breaking it down. Think about a seed. Even the strongest seed cannot grow in the wrong soil. It does not matter how much potential it carries, how perfectly it's designed, or how deeply it's planted. In poor soil, it cannot flourish. The same principle applies to you. You may have ambition, discipline, talent, and drive, but if your environment contradicts your goals, your growth will always feel like a struggle. You'll feel drained, discouraged, or distracted without understanding why. But it's not you, it's the soil. So your environment influences your standards. If you're surrounded by people who settle, you'll eventually settle. If you spend your time around people who complain, you'll start complaining. If your circle lacks discipline, ambition, or integrity, their energy becomes the air you breathe. And without realizing it, you begin lowering your expectations to match the environment, instead of rising to match your potential. But the opposite is equally true. Place yourself around people who work hard, think big, speak boldly, take action, and you will naturally begin to rise. You will feel challenged, inspired, motivated. You will aim higher, push further, and expect more from yourself. A powerful environment makes growth feel natural, not forced. It turns discipline into your default and ambition into your instinct. Your environment is not just the people, it's the places too. Your physical space impacts your focus, energy, and mental clarity. A chaotic space breeds a chaotic mind. A cluttered environment makes it harder to think clearly and stay disciplined. Your surroundings should support your goals, not distract you from them. Create spaces where growth feels easier, cleaner, calmer, more intentional. Your environment should reflect the future you're building, not the habits you're trying to leave behind. Your environment also includes your digital world. The content you consume shapes your thoughts. The accounts you follow shape your beliefs. The news you absorb shapes your fears. Every scroll, every video, every message influences your mind. If your digital environment is filled with negativity, comparison, gossip, or noise, it will weaken you. But if you fill it with knowledge, inspiration, and clarity, it will strengthen you. What you allow on your screen eventually becomes what you allow in your mind. Protecting your environment requires courage. It often means distancing yourself from people you care about, people who are not bad, but who simply don't match where you're going. Not everyone from your past belongs in your future. Some relationships fade, not because of conflict, but because they no longer align with your growth. And that's okay. Growth demands sacrifice. You cannot stay in the same place mentally while trying to rise physically. It also requires honesty. You must admit when your environment is weakening you. You must recognize the patterns you've ignored, the friendships that exhaust you, the conversations that distract you, the habits that waste your time, the routines that drain your energy. Once you see the truth, you can no longer pretend your environment doesn't matter. To build an empowering environment, start small but intentional. Spend time in places that inspire clarity. Surround yourself with people who respect your ambition instead of questioning it. Fill your mind with ideas that strengthen your perspective. Remove yourself from situations that pull you backward. Create boundaries that protect your peace and your progress. Most importantly, become the kind of person who elevates your own environment. Be the example of discipline. Be the source of positivity. Be the person who raises the energy of the room instead of absorbing it. Leadership begins with the atmosphere you create for yourself. Your environment is shaping you at this very moment. The question is it shaping you into someone stronger, clearer, and more capable, or someone distracted, uncertain, and limited? You get to choose your environment, and by choosing it, you choose your future. Chapter 9. Transform pain into wisdom, not wounds. Pain is one of the most powerful teachers life will ever give you. It breaks you open, exposes your weaknesses, and shows you the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Pain is uncomfortable, sometimes unbearable, but it is also essential. No one becomes strong without struggle. No one becomes wise without lessons. No one becomes unshakable without facing moments that feel impossible to survive. What separates people is not whether they experience pain. Everyone does. What separates them is what they do with that pain. Some people let pain become a wound that never heals. They hold on to the past so tightly that they carry the same hurts into every new chapter of their life. They replay memories over and over, letting them shape their beliefs, damage their confidence, and limit their future. But pain is not meant to be a prison. Pain is meant to be a path, a guide, a message, a turning point. If you allow it, pain can become the force that lifts you higher instead of the weight that holds you down. The truth is, pain only becomes destructive when you resist it. When you fight it, avoid it, deny it, or pretend it doesn't exist. But when you face it honestly, when you sit with it, learn from it, and grow through it, it transforms. It becomes clarity. It becomes strength. It becomes wisdom. Pain is never just pain. It is information. It is feedback. It is the truth revealing itself in its rawest form. Every painful experience carries a lesson, and the lesson is always connected to your growth. If you were betrayed, the lesson may be to raise your standards. If you failed, the lesson may be to refine your strategy. If you were hurt emotionally, the lesson may be to strengthen your boundaries. If you lost something or someone important, the lesson may be to appreciate your life more deeply. Pain does not show up randomly. It shows up to evolve you. But transformation begins with acceptance. You cannot grow from pain you refuse to acknowledge. Accepting pain doesn't mean agreeing with what happened. It means facing the truth so you can free yourself from it. When you accept your pain, you regain your power. You shift from "why did this happen to me?" to "what is this trying to teach me?" That shift alone changes everything. Another part of transforming pain into wisdom is taking responsibility, not for what happened, but for what comes next. You may not have caused the pain, but you are responsible for the healing. You are responsible for the next chapter. You are responsible for how you use the experience. Pain gives you a choice: stay wounded or grow stronger. Stay stuck or move forward. Stay bitter or become wiser. Remember, the strongest people you know did not become strong because life was gentle with them. They became strong because they refused to let pain define them. They used their darkest moments as fuel for transformation. They allowed life's toughest experiences to build depth, resilience, and character. Strength is not built through avoiding pain. It is built through rising in spite of it. Transforming pain into wisdom also requires letting go. Letting go of the stories you tell yourself. letting go of the blame, letting go of what you can't change, letting go of the version of you that was shaped by old wounds. You cannot move forward while holding on to what hurt you. Healing begins where resistance ends. One of the most powerful truths about pain is this: the moment you survive something that once terrified you, you become someone new. You expand, you evolve, you gain a deeper understanding of who you are and what you're capable of. Pain reveals your strength. It shows you your resilience. It proves that you can endure more than you imagined and still rise. When you look back years from now, many of the moments that hurt you most will also be the moments that transformed you most deeply. You'll realize that your pain was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to prepare you. Prepare you to grow, prepare you to rise, prepare you to become the person you were always meant to be. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your instructor, your refiner, your unmasker, your builder. Transform it. Learn from it. Let it make you wiser, stronger, and more grounded than ever before. Turn your wounds into wisdom and watch your life expand. Chapter 10. Shed the identity that no longer fits you. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize they've outgrown the version of themselves they've been living with. The habits, beliefs, fears, and patterns that once felt normal begin to feel heavy. The routines that once felt comfortable begin to feel restrictive. The identity that once defined you becomes too small for who you are becoming. Growth demands that you shed the old version of yourself, not because it was wrong, but because it no longer fits the life you are building. Identity is powerful. It shapes how you think, how you act, and what you believe is possible for you. But identity is not fixed. It's a story you've repeated so many times that you've mistaken it for truth. The problem is, most people never question that story. They continue living as the person they were, not the person they are capable of becoming. They let old labels define new chapters of their life. They allow childhood wounds, past failures, or outdated beliefs to dictate their future. And without realizing it, they trap themselves inside a narrative they've outgrown. To shed your old identity, you must first recognize it. Ask yourself, what stories am I still telling about myself? What limitations have I accepted as truth? What beliefs have I inherited instead of chosen? What patterns do I repeat simply because they feel familiar? Awareness is the beginning of transformation, because you cannot change what you refuse to see. The next step is releasing the attachments that hold your old identity in place. Sometimes it's the attachment to people who expect you to stay the same. Sometimes it's the attachment to routines that comfort you but don't challenge you. Sometimes it's the attachment to who you used to be. The insecure version, the uncertain version, the version who didn't know any better. Letting go is not easy, but staying the same is far more painful in the long run. Your identity also shapes your habits, and habits reinforce your identity. If you see yourself as someone who procrastinates, you'll procrastinate. If you see yourself as someone who lacks discipline, you'll act undisciplined. If you see yourself as someone who always struggles, you will subconsciously create struggle. The cycle continues until you break it, and the way you break it is by making decisions that reflect the identity you want, not the one you're trying to leave behind. Transformation begins with a single shift. You start acting like the person you want to become. Not tomorrow, not someday. Today, you behave as if the new identity is already true, and your mind eventually catches up. You don't wait to feel ready. You don't wait to feel confident. You don't wait for permission. You step into the identity now, and the feelings follow later. This is how people reinvent themselves. They don't change who they are. They uncover who they've always been beneath the fear and the conditioning. They peel away the old layers, the old expectations, the old limitations, and they reveal the version of themselves that was always waiting to emerge. But shedding your old identity also requires courage. You must be willing to disappoint people who preferred the older version of you. You must be willing to endure moments of uncertainty as you navigate unfamiliar territory. You must be willing to lose parts of your old life to gain the life that aligns with your new self. Growth demands sacrifice, not of your true self, but of the self that kept you trapped in smallness. There will be times when you feel like you're caught between two worlds, the person you used to be and the person you're becoming. This is the uncomfortable but necessary middle space of transformation. Don't rush it. Don't fear it. This tension is the signal that you are evolving. It means you're no longer anchored to your past, but you haven't fully stepped into your future. Stay patient. Stay committed. Keep choosing the new identity over the old one decision at a time. Eventually something powerful happens. The new identity becomes natural. The habits shift. The beliefs shift. The thoughts shift. The choices shift. You no longer have to force the new behavior. It becomes who you are. You look back and realize you're no longer the person you once were, and you no longer carry the weight of an identity that limited you. You were never meant to remain the same. You were meant to evolve, to expand, to rise beyond old definitions. Shed the identity that no longer fits you, and step boldly into the person you are destined to become. Chapter 11. Fall in love with the boring work that creates mastery. Mastery is not built in dramatic moments. It's not built in bursts of inspiration, impressive displays of talent, or sudden waves of motivation. Mastery is built in the repetition, the quiet, unglamorous, uncelebrated work that most people avoid. Growth happens in the boring parts, the parts no one sees, the parts that feel routine, repetitive, ordinary. The truth is simple. The people who rise to the top are not the most talented. They are the ones who fall in love with the boring work. We live in a world addicted to speed. Everyone wants rapid progress, instant results, quick success. But the reality is that anything meaningful, anything lasting, anything exceptional requires time. It requires patience. It requires doing the same foundational work over and over until it becomes part of who you are. But because this process is slow and sometimes dull, most people lose interest long before they see results. They quit too soon. They assume they're failing when they're actually just in the early phases of mastery. The boring work is not glamorous, but it is transformative. It's waking up early when you'd rather sleep. It's practicing a skill long after everyone else is tired. It's reviewing, refining, repeating, even when progress feels invisible. It's choosing discipline over comfort, repetition over novelty, effort over ease. And every time you show up for the boring work, you're laying another brick in the foundation of your future success. Mastery requires consistency, and consistency requires a shift in mindset. You must stop chasing excitement and start embracing structure. You must stop waiting to feel inspired and start acting regardless of how you feel. You must understand that boredom is not a sign that things are wrong. It's a sign you're on the right path. Boredom means you've entered the territory of skill building, habit strengthening, identity shaping. This is where the real transformation happens. The boring work is hard because it challenges the part of you that craves quick rewards. It tests your patience. It exposes your lack of discipline. It confronts your old habits. But every time you push through that resistance, you grow. Every time you choose discipline in place of distraction, you strengthen your character. The boring work is not your enemy. It is your teacher. To fall in love with the boring work, you must learn to value the process more than the outcome. Outcomes are rewarding, but they are short-lived. The process, however, is where you build confidence, resilience, and self-respect. It's where you prove to yourself that you are capable of committing to something long enough to master it. When you fall in love with the process, success becomes inevitable because you are no longer chasing it, you are becoming the kind of person who attracts it. Another key to embracing the boring work is understanding the power of small improvements. Growth rarely comes in big leaps. It comes in tiny, almost unnoticeable increments. One more rep, one more page, one more hour, one more attempt. These small actions, repeated consistently, compound into massive transformation. But because they are subtle, people often overlook them. They underestimate the power of doing a little, every day. Yet this is exactly how mastery is built. The boring work also eliminates the illusion of shortcuts. It forces you to confront the reality that shortcuts weaken you. They rob you of the discipline, depth, and experience required to sustain success. Anyone can achieve something quickly. Few can hold on to it. Those who fall in love with the boring work don't just attain success, they maintain it. They outlast, outgrow, and outperform everyone who depended on shortcuts. Eventually something shifts within you. The work that once felt boring begins to feel grounding. The repetition that once felt dull becomes a source of strength. You stop resisting the structure and start craving it. You begin to take pride in your consistency, your discipline, your ability to show up regardless of circumstances. You realize that the boring work has turned you into someone reliable, capable, and unshakable. Falling in love with the boring work is not about lowering your standards, it's about raising them. It's about building a foundation so solid that nothing can break it. It's about becoming the kind of person who does what others refuse to do. The kind of person who wins not because of talent, luck, or timing, but because they have built themselves through countless hours of silent, consistent effort. Mastery is earned in the quiet, in the repetition, in the discipline. Fall in love with the boring work, and you will become unstoppable. Chapter 12. Set standards that make average people uncomfortable. Your standards determine the quality of your life. They shape your habits, influence your decisions, and define what you tolerate from yourself and from others. High standards are not about perfection. They are about clarity. They are a declaration to the world and to yourself. This is who I am, and this is what I expect from my life. But here's the truth most people ignore. If your standards don't make average people uncomfortable, they are not high enough. Average people follow convenience. They choose ease over excellence, comfort over commitment, and avoidance over accountability. When you raise your standards, you naturally separate yourself from this mindset. You begin to expect more from your time, your effort, your relationships, and your discipline. And because most people operate on autopilot, your commitment to higher standards will inevitably make them uneasy. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're doing something they don't have the courage to do. Setting high standards begins with the standards you set for yourself. You cannot demand excellence from life if you allow mediocrity in your habits. Look at your daily routine, what you tolerate in your diet, your work, your mindset, your discipline, your environment. Every area of your life reflects your standards. If you accept laziness, inconsistency, or excuses, they will multiply. But when you declare that certain behaviors are no longer acceptable, everything starts to shift. High standards also create boundaries. You stop giving your time to people who drain your energy. You stop allowing disrespect, whether subtle or obvious. You stop engaging in gossip, chaos, or negativity. You recognize that your energy is valuable, and you refuse to waste it. This can feel uncomfortable at first, because you are breaking patterns that once defined you. But discomfort is the price of evolution. When you raise your standards, you will notice something else. Not everyone will rise with you. Some people will distance themselves. Some will criticize you. Some will try to pull you back to who you used to be, because your growth challenges their comfort. This is normal. When you elevate your life, you expose the parts of others who aren't ready to elevate theirs. Your discipline highlights their inconsistency. Your ambition highlights their complacency. Your standards highlight their lack of them. And instead of taking responsibility, some will take offense. Do not lower your standards to make others comfortable. Let them feel uncomfortable. Let them adjust or drift away. The people meant for your next chapter will respect your growth, not resent it. They will challenge you, not distract you. They will walk beside you, not pull you backward. High standards attract high-value relationships, but your standards must extend beyond people. They must also apply to your thoughts. What thoughts do you allow to live in your mind? Do you accept self-doubt, overthinking, and negativity as normal? You shouldn't. You must hold your mind to a higher standard. You must replace destructive thinking with thoughts that strengthen you. You must reject mental patterns that sabotage your growth. Your inner world shapes your outer life, and your standards begin in your mind, long before they show up in your actions. And then there are your goals. High standards mean you don't settle for good enough. You want meaningful progress, not superficial effort. You challenge yourself. You push through resistance. You stop seeking shortcuts and commit to the long game. People will call you intense. They will say you're too focused, too committed, too serious. But the truth is, most people mistake discipline for extremity because they have never experienced what it feels like to demand more from themselves. High standards require consistency. It means showing up on days when you're tired, overwhelmed, discouraged, or uninspired. Anyone can hold high standards for a moment. Few can hold them for a lifetime. But the more consistent you become, the more natural your standards feel. What once felt difficult eventually becomes your new normal. You transform not by forcing massive change, but by refusing to accept anything less than the level you've chosen. Setting high standards is not about judging others. It's about honoring yourself. It's about building a life that reflects your potential, not your fears. It's about becoming the person you know you can be, even if that person makes others uncomfortable. Raise your standards, protect your standards, live your standards, and watch how your entire life rises to meet them. Chapter 13. You compete with your previous self. No one else. One of the greatest sources of stress, insecurity, and self-doubt comes from comparing your life to the lives of others. You look at someone else's success and feel behind. You look at their progress and feel inadequate. You see their achievements, their highlight reels, their public victories, and you forget that your journey is not supposed to look like theirs. Comparison is the thief of joy, but more importantly, it is the thief of focus. The more you compare, the less you grow. The moment you stop competing with others and start competing only with your previous self, is the moment your life begins to accelerate. The truth is, you are not here to follow anyone's timeline. You are not here to mirror anyone's path. You are not here to chase what someone else has. You are here to become the strongest, wisest, most disciplined version of yourself. Your only real competition is who you were yesterday, last week, last month, last year. When you shift your focus inward, your energy becomes powerful, your growth becomes measurable, your progress becomes personal, and your journey becomes fulfilling. Competing with others creates pressure, envy, and insecurity. Competing with yourself creates clarity, purpose, and direction. You stop asking, "Why aren't I there yet?" and start asking, "How can I be a little better today?" You stop chasing someone else's definition of success and start becoming someone who earns their own success. You stop wasting time watching others, and you start investing time building yourself. The reason comparison is so damaging is because it's unfair. You compare your struggles to someone else's strengths. You compare your beginning to someone else's middle. You compare your daily life to someone's curated highlight reel. You see the results of years of work, discipline, and failure, but you don't see the invisible effort behind it. And when you compare incomplete stories, you create an illusion that destroys your confidence. Success is not a race. It's not a competition. It's not a limited resource. Someone else's win does not take anything from you. Their progress does not diminish your value. Their achievements do not reduce your potential. Life is not about outrunning others. It's about outgrowing your former self. When you focus solely on your own improvement, everything becomes more meaningful. Every small win becomes a victory. Every new habit becomes progress. Every adjustment becomes growth. You stop seeking validation and start seeking evolution. You stop trying to impress people and start trying to impress yourself. And that internal shift changes everything. Competing with yourself also makes your pace sustainable. Comparison pushes you to rush, forcing shortcuts and exhaustion. But self-competition encourages steady, consistent progress. It allows you to grow at your own rhythm, not someone else's. You get to define what better means for you. Maybe it's one more page, one more workout, one more hour of discipline, one more moment of courage. Every step forward counts, because every step forward is progress over who you were. This mindset builds resilience. When you hit setbacks, you don't think, everyone is ahead of me. You think, how can I recover stronger than before? When you fail, you don't think, I'm falling behind. You think, this is part of my evolution. You learn to value the journey, not just the destination. And as a result, you become someone who cannot be discouraged easily. Comparison shatters you. Self-competition strengthens you. Another powerful aspect of self-competition is that it deepens your self-awareness. You start noticing patterns. What motivates you? What distracts you? What drains you? What builds you? You begin to understand your strengths and weaknesses with precision. You no longer guess what you need. You know, and that awareness allows you to build your life intentionally, strategically, and effectively. The world will always have someone who is richer, faster, smarter, earlier, or further along. But none of that matters, because none of those people are you. Your story is unique. Your timing is unique. Your path is unique. Your purpose is unique. And when you stop measuring your life with someone else's metrics, you finally give yourself permission to grow authentically. So let others run their race. Let others achieve what they achieve. Let others move at their pace. Celebrate them if you want to, but never compare yourself to them. Their path is theirs. Your path is yours. Compete with your previous self. Aim to be just a little wiser, a little stronger, a little more disciplined, a little more focused. When you live this way, you rise steadily, consistently, powerfully, and one day, you'll look back and barely recognize the person you once were. That is the real victory. Chapter 14. Learn to stand alone without feeling alone. There comes a point in your journey when you must learn to walk alone. Not because you want to isolate yourself, but because growth often requires separation. The path to becoming your strongest, most capable self is not always crowded. In fact, it is often quiet, it is often uncomfortable, and it is often misunderstood by those who have never dared to rise above the familiar. Learning to stand alone is not a punishment, it is a rite of passage. It is the space where you discover who you truly are, without the noise of others shaping your choices. Most people fear solitude because they mistake it for loneliness. Loneliness is the absence of others. Solitude is the presence of yourself. Loneliness drains you. Solitude strengthens you. Loneliness makes you feel abandoned. Solitude makes you feel grounded. When you learn how to stand alone, you no longer need constant validation, attention, or approval. You no longer need the world to cheer for you before you act. You no longer depend on others to determine your worth. Instead, you build an inner foundation no one can shake. Standing alone teaches you clarity. When you step away from the noise, you begin to hear the truth. The truth about your desires, your fears, your strengths, your weaknesses, and your purpose. The world is full of opinions, expectations, and pressures that push you in different directions. But solitude removes the distractions and reveals what truly matters. In the quiet, you reconnect with your intuition. You rediscover your ambition. You see your life for what it is, not for what others think it should be. Solitude also builds emotional strength. When you learn to sit with your thoughts, your doubts, and your feelings, you stop running from yourself. You stop hiding behind busyness or entertainment. You stop numbing discomfort with noise. Instead, you learn to process, understand, and overcome. You become someone who can face difficulty without collapsing, someone who can handle uncertainty without panicking, someone who can rebuild themselves without needing a crowd to support them. When you trust your ability to endure alone, you become unbreakable. Learning to stand alone also teaches independence. It frees you from the need to be carried by others. It frees you from relying on people who aren't reliable. It frees you from expecting others to give you what you must give yourself. Discipline, commitment, focus, and belief. Independence does not mean rejecting help. It means not needing it in order to move forward. You accept support when it's given, but you never depend on it to rise. The truth is, not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone will support your growth. Some people will distance themselves when you change. Others will feel threatened when you raise your standards. Many will not know how to walk with you through certain seasons of your life. That's why you must learn to stand alone, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Not because you don't care for others, but because you care for your future. And here's the surprising thing. Once you get comfortable standing alone, you stop feeling alone. You begin to enjoy your own company. You begin to trust your own judgment. You begin to feel a deep sense of peace, knowing that you are complete on your own. You stop searching for people to fill emotional gaps, because you learn to fill them from within. You stop accepting relationships built on dependency, and start choosing relationships built on alignment and respect. Standing alone also increases your value. It shows you who you are without the influence of others. It builds confidence because you learn to rely on your own decisions. It builds respect because you stop tolerating things that weaken you. It builds authenticity because you stop shaping yourself to fit into groups that do not match your purpose. And then something powerful happens when you no longer need people. The right people start appearing. You attract relationships based on mutual strength, not mutual weakness. You attract people who admire your independence instead of resenting it. You attract those who walk with you, not behind you or ahead of you. Solitude becomes a filter that reveals who truly belongs in your life. Standing alone is not easy, but it is necessary. It is the foundation of self-respect, inner strength, and emotional maturity. You must walk the difficult parts of the journey alone, so you can walk the meaningful parts of the journey with confidence. Learn to stand alone, not to isolate yourself, but to elevate yourself. Not to separate from the world, but to strengthen your place in it. Not to reject connection, but to create better, healthier, stronger connections from a place of wholeness. When you can stand alone without feeling alone, you become unstoppable. Chapter 15. Prepare yourself for the success you're asking for. Everyone wants success, more opportunities, more freedom, more abundance, more recognition, more fulfillment. But wanting success and being ready for success are two very different things. Most people speak about success as if it's a reward that appears magically at the end of hard work. But success isn't a trophy. It's a responsibility. It demands emotional maturity, discipline, self-control, and clarity. If you're not prepared for success, success can overwhelm you, distract you, or even destroy you. That's why the final stage of self-mastery is preparing yourself internally for the very life you're working to build. Success requires strength, not just physical strength or financial strength, but mental strength, the ability to navigate pressure, expectations, and uncertainty without losing yourself. Many people think success will solve all their problems, but the truth is, it reveals your weaknesses more than it hides them. More eyes on you means more judgment. More opportunities mean more responsibility. More progress means more challenges. If you're not grounded, success can magnify your insecurities. If you're not disciplined, success can expose your lack of structure. If you're not humble, success can inflate your ego. Preparing yourself means building a foundation strong enough to hold the weight of what you're asking for. The first part of preparation is character. Your habits, your values, your integrity, these become the backbone of your success. You can achieve something through luck, but you can only maintain it through character. Are you someone who follows through? Are you someone who keeps promises? Are you someone who stays calm under pressure? Are you someone who chooses what's right over what's easy? These questions matter because success will test your character at every level. If you don't have a strong internal compass, you'll get lost the moment things start going well. The second part of preparation is discipline. Success doesn't remove the need for discipline, it requires it even more. When you have more to lose, more to protect, more to manage, and more to build, your daily habits matter more than ever. Your routines, your focus, your long-term thinking, all of these must strengthen as your success grows. Many people reach a certain level of achievement and relax, believing the hard part is over. But the truth is, staying successful requires more discipline than becoming successful. You must consistently show up, even when comfort becomes tempting. The third part of preparation is emotional intelligence. Success will expose you to opinions, criticism, pressure, and challenges you've never experienced before. If you take everything personally, you'll burn out. If you react impulsively, you'll create problems. If you let emotions lead you, you'll sabotage opportunities. Emotional maturity allows you to stay grounded, patient, strategic and focused, even when the world around you becomes noisy. Another critical part of preparation is learning to let go. As you rise, some relationships, habits, and environments will no longer align with your direction. You can't carry everyone with you. You can't cling to old behaviors while asking for a new life. Preparing for success means making room, physically, mentally, emotionally, for the next version of you. It means releasing what limits you so you can receive what strengthens you. Preparation also requires humility. Success is not a destination, it's a journey of becoming. When you stay humble, you stay teachable, you stay open to learning, adapting, adjusting, and evolving. Humility prevents you from becoming complacent. It keeps your hunger alive. It keeps your growth steady. The most successful people in the world remain students no matter how high they climb. And finally, preparing for success means aligning your identity with your future, not your past. You cannot step into a bigger life with a smaller mindset. You cannot expect abundance while thinking like someone who is struggling. You cannot maintain success if you still see yourself as someone who doubts, hesitates, or fears change. You must begin to see yourself as capable, strong, worthy, and ready. Identity shapes destiny. When you believe you can handle success, your actions will rise to match that belief. This chapter is not telling you to wait for perfection. Success does not require perfection. It requires preparation. It requires intention. It requires becoming someone who can hold the weight of the life you are building. Because success is not just about reaching a new level, it's about staying there, growing there, and becoming the kind of person who thrives there. Prepare yourself, strengthen yourself, elevate yourself. Become ready for the success you're asking for, because once it arrives, it will demand everything you've built within. At some point in your life, you realize that no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to do the work for you, to heal your past, to build your habits, or to carry your dreams. Your life changes only when you decide to take full responsibility for it. Your thoughts, your actions, your discipline, your progress. Self-mastery is not a concept, it is a commitment. And throughout this audiobook, you've taken the first step toward the most important commitment of all, choosing yourself. You've learned that your growth begins the moment you stop waiting and start building, that your focus is a resource so valuable, you must guard it with intention, that your mind can be your greatest ally or your greatest obstacle, and only you can train it. That consistency is your greatest advantage, that silence protects your progress, and that confidence is something you earn, not something you wait for. You've explored the importance of your environment, the transformative power of pain, and the courage it takes to shed the identity that no longer fits who you're becoming. You've discovered why the boring work matters, why your standards define your life, and why your only real competition is the person you were yesterday. You've learned that standing alone is not a weakness, but a strength, and that success is a responsibility that requires preparation, not luck. But this journey doesn't end here. Self-mastery isn't a one-time decision, it's a daily practice. It's the quiet choices you make when no one is watching. It's the discipline you show when excuses feel easier. It's the patience you carry when results aren't visible. It's the belief you hold on to when the world doubts you. And most importantly, it's the promise you keep to yourself, over and over again. You don't need to transform your life in one dramatic leap. You need to choose yourself today, and then choose yourself again tomorrow. You need to take one step, then another, steady, intentional, deliberate. Over time, these steps turn into momentum. That momentum turns into growth, and that growth turns into a life that reflects your highest potential. Your future is not something you wait for, it's something you build. And now, you have the tools, the mindset, and the clarity to build it. You have everything you need to begin, and everything you need to continue. This is not the end of your journey, it is the beginning of your next chapter, the chapter where you rise with purpose, act with discipline, and live with intention. The chapter where you stop shrinking to fit the world, and start expanding to fit your potential. The chapter where you focus on yourself long enough, consistently enough, until you win. Your life is in your hands now. Go build the future you were meant to live.